No. Oh boy. I'm learning to manage Zoom way better than I did before, but I'm not perfect yet. No, best practices. So I'm going to introduce you first, Steve, okay?
Sure, yeah.
Then I'm going to, at the end of our conversation, we're going to invite the village, the people here from the Village Collective to come on and ask questions if they wish. So Steve, this is Steve Kenzie. He's Executive Director of the UN Global Compact Network for the UK for the last almost 14 years. Wow.
Yeah.
He lives in London, England, United Kingdom, I guess. He manages the Secretariat of the Global Compact Network UK, a group of businesses, NGOs, and government representatives committed to the UN's corporate responsibility framework. And so welcome, Steve. And I would like to introduce you to, I'm Harriet Madigan, but I think everybody knows that already. And I am owner operator of Women 10 and a sub, what do we call that, Jess? Business of this, that, or something new that's coming up, earthandnest.ca. So I'd like to introduce my team. Here we have Allison Rager. Allison, do you want to Allison is community connector with the Village Compact Network, and she's going to introduce the other people on Zoom today.
Yeah, so we've invited some of the community connectors from the Village Collective Impact Project. So that's through Canadore College. So we have Catherine here, 5821. I don't know who iPhone is, but maybe we'll figure that out later. And we have Leanne and Jasmine. So that's who's on currently. We might have some more additions. But yes, everybody on is a community connector at Canadore College.
Okay.
And what does that mean? What does it mean to be a community connector?
So we work with organizations in the community, and we work towards making these organizations and businesses more senior friendly, dementia friendly, senior friendly, anybody. So we work with hospice, we work with libraries, we work with the YMCA, many really restaurants, any organizations who are willing to commit to being more age friendly. So we're doing senior inclusion. We're also doing a digital literacy, so teaching seniors how to use technology to stay connected with their friends, family, current like services that we have for them. And Leanne and Jasmine are working on a toolkit, senior toolkit. So any services that seniors need to stay in the home longer, because most of the money for seniors goes to long-term care. Most of the seniors are not in long-term care. So it really doesn't make sense. So we're trying to keep people in the home longer and make it accessible and easy for them to do that by giving them easy access to any services they need, healthcare, lawn services, restaurants, really anything. So that's our goal. So community connector just is kind of the umbrella term for all of that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. And my other member of the team, Jess Rupert. Jess has developed our website, and she is, I just a little bit about Jess. She's doing her master's in psychology. She has a degree from York University and recent graduate of Canadore College. What is it? Health and
Yeah, mental health solutions. So that's how I met Harriet. I was with the village with Allison for my placement as a community connector. And I'm lucky enough to, I got partnered with Harriet for that, and we really connected. So now I'm a collaborator with her for Earth in a Nest continuing forward, which I'm really excited to share about.
Great.
So a little bit of history. So Steve, we met, I was fortunate enough to have you as my guest for Women 10, Living Fit Inside Out, which is a pivot online and outdoors. And out of that, we did a photo voice project about barriers to inclusion and for seniors, for aging adults, and how to overcome those barriers. And out of that, I got lucky enough to get connected to the collective, the Village Collective Impact Project. It's funny, those same words are in your description.
Yeah.
Network. And out of that, I was thinking that, you know, I saw there's a lot of age-friendly projects going on worldwide, actually, but there's nothing that would seem to me, other than in big corporations, connecting eco-age. And I thought, why can't we work those two things together? Eco-age friendly. And what would that look like from a, not from a global level, from a community level? You know, so that with this circular thing that's going on, global, community, community, global, and how I wondered if businesses would be interested in North Bay locally to commit to that, to just working towards this together, learning together. And sure enough, in my usual way of going top down, I just went out and asked, and 20 businesses signed up right away.
Wow, good.
And so we had a Google form, and we took the World Health Organization age-friendly and eco-friendly practices, and we honed them down to what we thought would be manageable and not too threatening to community, to businesses. And if I'm missing anything, team, let me know. And then we just jumped right in. We've only been at this for about a month and a half. So we have right now 20 businesses that have actually filled out the form and are on our website, and 28 pending. So this is good. This is good.
Yeah.
And our goal is to get to 100 at least by September. That's our goal. I mean, it's lofty, but hey, you got to aim high. That's the way I look at it. So anyways, the one thing that we came up with, and was a real gift from Volunteer Canada, the value of one, the power of many. And I think, you know, I've always been told that, and I've read that small business is the engine of community, you know, and it's the engine of really our economy. And if we could get small business organized to commit to these, and then give this out to their clients, like, you know, spread the word through their clients. We're having a very broad reach. And so it's just a different perspective. And what we're looking for today, so I wanted to take that value of one, just wanted to go back there. The value of one, the value of the collective one is huge, you know, I think. So I'm interested. Jess is going to show you the website. And then I really want your feedback of what do you think we could do with this and where we might go? Are we duplicating something? I don't know. That's already out there. Doesn't really matter. At least we're starting at the idea is that North Bay would be a model community. How do we reach municipality? That's the big piece right there, you know? So Jess, do you want to go ahead and show the website?
Sure. Yeah, we really think that small businesses could be the leaders within our community to create this change. So that's kind of why we focused on them as well, like Harriet was saying. So this is the website that we've created so far. We are trying to make it like marketing for the businesses themselves. Why should they join? There are reasons. If you're part of this association, you're going to be promoted to the community as being eco-age friendly, and to also Harriet's group, Women to the Power of 10. So there is that connection there. So here you can see these are all the businesses we have on board so far. Excuse me. And we've done
I don't see my family businesses in there, Harriet.
Not yet, and I'm
Are
got them on
they,
my list. I will put them on
very
my
good.
list. Yes.
there we
Yeah,
go.
Very good, good.
Actually, that's 3 businesses, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm sure they would all be happy to pile in.
You know,
Can't
it's
get
not
much
easy to
more
get them.
age-friendly than Deegan's. So
That's okay. We are pushing that. We just want to promote improvement, not perfection.
Yeah.
Like we want it to be
Okay.
accessible to businesses, and that's where
That's
we don't know where to start.
that's what we're saying. We're all in this together.
Mhm.
So let's learn together. And so we're hoping that we're going to be able to take one business. For example, a good example is Arugula, this restaurant in town. All their containers from their restaurant are biodegradable. There is no plastic. And what a great start to say this is a best practice by Arugula. Maybe they could share where they're getting their, who's their distributor, you know, and maybe others can take advantage. There could even be the formation of a collective to a buying power, you know what I mean? So there's lots of opportunities.
Mhm. It'll be really cool to have collaboration between the businesses in the association and communication between them, and not just us to the individual business. But we're still early stages with everything, so tons of ideas. So here's just the first page, and we just kind of wanted to create, this is our collective one right now, and hopefully it's going to get bigger. But I feel so proud of how far we've come already. So in part of creating this, we also wanted to give businesses a description of what is eco-age friendly. So we created kind of a basic checklist of things that they can look at. We gave them suggestions on both the eco and the age friendly side, because a lot of businesses, they just don't know where to start. They don't know, how can I be more eco-friendly? How can I be more age friendly? So we just wanted to help give them ideas, kind of see where they're at. Everyone can kind of get their current stance in regards to eco and age friendly practices. I won't read all these out because it's just going to take too much time. We really do want to also promote getting ideas from the businesses themselves to add to this list. So we want to collaborate with them as well. The next page is just a business promotion page. So these are the businesses we have so far. So all of them are listed here. We try and give them space and give them the face to the business as well. So these are all the owners, to kind of create that community and sense of belonging as well. These are the people that are living with you, and they're also the small business owners. And hopefully,
I think that's part of that's the biggest, it's hugely important because we're all so diverse and different, but collectively we have a purpose and meaning, and we want people to see the face, maybe even know a little bit of the history of who is behind this business.
Mm-hmm. Now all the businesses are here. We have tons of different types of businesses. We have restaurants, we have services. It's really awesome so far. We have like an art studio, and we're hoping once we have more here, we'll create it to be more of a directory. So let's say someone wants to find an eco-age friendly shoe store, they can come on here and they can find that shoe store so that they can give their business to somewhere that promotes and practices these eco-age friendly values. The next is just our why, and that's explaining why we want to do that. So we want to identify, encourage, assist, and promote businesses move forward with eco-age friendly best practices. So these are just some of the infographics that we have. We really do think that the eco and age friendly aspects link well, just in how they're promoting more inclusivity, kind of a more friendly like earth altogether. And we haven't seen that anywhere else online at this point. Yeah, and the last one's just the join us page. So really want to promote that it's not perfection we're looking for from businesses, but just a commitment to improvement within the community. And if every business can take those small steps, it's really going to add up and create and make a difference. Yeah.
You'll
That's what-
notice there's no fee for this. It's a free service while we're developing this.
Mhm.
And I think we're promoting nonprofit and profit organizations as well. And our hope is that I got some funding to be able to do this, Steve. Not a lot, but my hope is to make a complete commitment to Mother Earth and community working together. And hopefully we haven't got to the stage where I don't know if this is going to be nonprofit or profit. I have no idea yet. We're just working on a visioning exercise with Wendy Carew from Ontario Health to just get our focus on where we should go with this. Should it be profit or nonprofit? Jess, anything else to add, or Allison?
I mean, you haven't really explained the logo, and that's that.
Oh yeah.
If you wanna.
Well, yeah. So the logo comes from. I'm going to send you one of these, Steve. I don't know if you can see this. It's Earth in a Nest. It was designed by Liz Lott. This is 20 years old.
Ah,
And so I had her make these up as a symbol of Earth in a Nest, the fragility of our Earth and humanity, and how we need to work together to make sure we don't break the Earth, break the egg. So that's the idea behind Earth in a Nest.
nice.
So Allison just has one more thing to add, and that we looked at London's commitment to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and how they have a template for how to measure that, a criteria, right? And from a local level. And so the girls and I, we took the Sustainable Development Goals and quickly just said, which ones are we, resonate with us right away. So Allison's going to give us a little summary.
Yeah, so we were looking at which ones do we match up with the best. So I saw 3 that we matched up with and are at least working towards. And then 2 other ones that we're not quite there, but I think we could get there. So the first one is sustainable cities and communities. That's really what we're working for, to make our city sustainable, our community sustainable. And by reaching out and collaborating with everyone, there's no other way to do it other than working together. So the number 11 was what we thought, that's the first one we saw. Another one is climate action. So Earth in a Nest, we're working for eco and age-friendly practices. So we want to be eco-friendly. We don't want to cause more harm. We want to cause change to be better. So the number 13 was we think we match up with as well. And then number 17, that's the main one we think we meet, and partnerships for the goals. So the whole business is partnering with other organizations, other businesses, collaborating. So that's the third one that we thought were those the main goals that we are reaching for. The 2 that we could reach are number 3, good health and well-being. So by working eco and age-friendly practices, that will bring good health and well-being, especially the age part. Trying to be age-friendly, it'll keep people, so kind of what the village is doing, as community connectors, we're trying to keep seniors in their home longer. And by keeping people healthier in their home, that's how it's going to have to happen. So number 3, we could end up getting there by what we're doing to reach these goals. And then responsible consumption and production. Number 12, so like Harriet said, Arugula, one of our restaurants, is kind of, they have all of their takeout containers are
Biodegradable.
biodegradable. And so if we all join on that, if we all go to the, say, distributor and promise to buy however many, then all of the restaurants can have biodegradable takeout containers. So responsible consumption and production, and that's just one example. So I think we could get there. So those are the main sustainable development goals that Earth in a Nest meets or is trying to meet.
Yeah, I think we touch on all of them. There's different things that we could do, but I noticed that London, they're starting with the ones that they feel are their priorities first. So yeah. So I think
That's usually how it works.
Yeah.
They're so interconnected that
Yeah, exactly.
even if you wanted to work on just one, you couldn't help but have an impact on others, positively and negatively, because of the way they're interconnected. So it absolutely makes sense to focus in on what's going to resonate most. Yeah.
And I was thinking about exactly, the health and well-being, or collaborating with the business for eco-age friendly. That means reducing or actually eliminating plastics. That's a huge, big issue. So you're right, it connects to almost everything. Okay, we're done. Do you want to give us some of your feedback?
Well, it's a really, I've not seen this connection before, so I really like it, and I see it makes a lot of sense for a lot of smaller communities where old people are too often forgotten about, and it would be so easy. And I don't want to minimize the scale of the challenge, but it's just not what it was. I'm just people are more active for longer than they ever used to be, and so in that there are so many business interests in this, and I think that's something to in my work. I always try to shy away from appealing to altruism. As much as all of these businesses that have signed up for you already are altruistic and community minded, it makes it so much easier when you make a case that it's good for your business to do this. And I think there's lots of ammunition for that. So I'm thinking now of the ones closest to my heart. Cheapskates has got, it's clearly more oriented towards younger people, but older people are just as interested in staying fit. They need it more, and by just being a little more conscious, they could open up a whole new market. And it's not, again, the benefits go beyond just the old people, because anybody that's caring for them is also going to benefit from anything that makes things better for them. And then that has knock-on effects to municipal government finances. And as you noted, the way resources are allocated to support older people doesn't make a lot of sense right now. And if we can find ways of reducing the overall cost of delivering well-being for this important community, then I think that's really good. I think there's an interesting intergenerational element to climate conversations that usually kind of goes in reverse, right? It's older generations have created this problem by kicking it down the road, and now it's younger generations that have to deal with it. And I think it's just, I'm not quite sure how that works, but I think again an interesting opportunity here for older people to become more outspoken in advocating for the interests of younger people when it comes to the environment. And this potentially creates a really interesting platform for older people to be lobbying for more eco-friendly policies from businesses and from the city government. And then the inverse, an opportunity for young people to support their allies in the environmental movement by making things better for older people in the community. So I think there's all sorts of really great potential synergies in this. But I would explore further those connections for how supporting this is a business friendly initiative, because I think too often businesses take this type of initiative as just, you're asking me for something again. And I think if you can frame it as a truly business friendly initiative, that would be well received both by the businesses themselves and the local government. So already great that it's free, but if you could link your objectives again more clearly with keeping people active and independent longer, keeps them as productive contributors to the community for longer. And these people with their experience have so much to give, and they want to be engaged, and there's a whole loneliness epidemic that's raging alongside the COVID pandemic, and made worse by it because of people being isolated. And fixing that, again, it just is a way of making the community healthier and stronger. And so I think that beyond just the positive recognition that the businesses that support you will get, which I think is really important, sadly, in my experience, too often that message doesn't necessarily make it through to consumers and influencing spending decisions. So we can't rely upon that. It's good to demonstrate other benefits. And I think your approach to a check, well, a couple of things. I fully agree that we mustn't let perfection, we can't be a slave to perfection. We can't let that, perfection be the enemy of the good. And so that incremental approach, I think is really good. But I would caution against burying the prize too far. So we should really be clear that the ultimate outcome we want is a net zero society.
Yeah.
So it's fine that we're accepting incremental steps now on climate change, but that's only acceptable because these are incremental steps on the way to a tipping point that takes us to net zero. If we're not, if we're too complacent, or if we're not really clear about the end goal, then I think it can be a little bit demotivating. So I think it is still really good to, make those incremental changes, but don't be satisfied with that. Like, really understand that every business in North Bay, the clock is ticking. Now, here in the UK, the government has established that the country is going to be net zero by 2050. It's in law. It's only a matter of time, and probably before November and COP26, that the Canadian government, if they haven't already, will be making similar commitment. which means everybody in the community needs to be net zero. So what are we waiting for? Let's,
Mhm.
you know, you're going to wait till 2049, and then that's just nonsense. So we need to start, you know the destination and start making steps in that direction. So we're not, and I think so. You're absolutely right. We're not telling them to start running in that direction, but at the very minimum, start walking in that direction. Start making steps and know where you're going. So I think there needs to be a little more clarity about that. But I think that the approach of providing a checklist, I think is really sensible, because I know for small business, they got the day job, and many of these people will be passionate about the environment and about sustainability, and you can't separate your personal values from the way you run your business, and that's how it should be. But you got the payroll, you got
Yeah.
a lot of demands, and in my experience, a small business needs, they don't need to know why all the time. Like it's enough if you are a trusted authority for you to say you should do this, then they'll just say, okay, if Harriet says I should do this, I don't need to go do my own research. I know that
That's funny.
this is legit, and so you can just get on with it. And I think this is what leads often to paralysis for small business, because there's so much, there are so many actors, everybody telling you something different. And even in this agenda, because it combines two fairly big agendas, where do I start? Even your checklist is pretty long. So
Yeah.
having somebody that you trust to be able to just say, this is what you should do first. Thank you. Now I
Good
have some
point.
focus. I can just get on with it and do it. So I would suggest you might even refine your checklist further with a little bit of, do this first.
Yeah. Where to
Once
start?
thi-
Yeah.
once this is done, then this is sort of the introductory stuff to get you on the journey. And then this, and then this, and here's the end result. We want you to be net zero. So start thinking about your car, your van, your business vehicles aren't going to last forever. You need to be thinking right now, you're going to replace it with an electric vehicle. So get that decision out of the way. And then what are you going to need to do then in order to make that work?
Mhm.
And if that means maybe getting together with the other businesses in this group to make sure that the city's thinking about ensuring that there's some electric vehicle charging infrastructure in the city so that it's viable to do your local deliveries with an electric vehicle, then that's stuff that needs to happen. A really good tool that's linked to our work is it's the UN Global Compact SDG ambition benchmarks.
Okay.
And it's a set of 10 benchmarks. These are basically going down one level from the goals to the targets. So they're quite
Yeah.
specific, and they've identified 10 where business can have the most significant impact. And they've
Ooh.
also identified them as being eminently achievable. And they're basically just drawing a line in the sand that basically saying to business, no excuse to not have achieved these goals by 2030. So commit to it
Yeah.
and get started on that journey. And it's stuff that, like paying a living wage. I know there's been some big debates in Ontario
Yeah.
around raising the minimum wage. I don't know if the language of living wage has really got traction there, but
A little bit.
in many places, it's recognized that the legal minimum wage isn't necessarily enough to survive on. And of course, that's nonsense, isn't it? If you're working full time at a job, you should be able to earn enough at that job to live a decent, not luxurious lifestyle, but just to live. And so this is one of the SDGs, is that a business shouldn't be profitable by paying their staff wages that they can't live on. Seems kind of obvious. So by 2030, the expectation is that every business will be paying a living wage, regardless of what the legal minimum wage might be. Every business will have set a science-based target for their carbon emissions. Now, for small business, messing around with an official science-based target incurs costs that aren't really necessary. It's probably sufficient for a small business just to say, we're going to be carbon neutral, or we're going to be net zero by some future date. And for most small business, committing to do that by 2030 is not a really crazy stretch. I'm thinking of my family businesses. They could all switch to renewable energy coming into their locations. They could switch to electric vehicles, and they're just about there. So these are very achievable things that just about any business in North Bay could work to, and in fact, probably saves the money in the long run, rather than costing. So I think, to sum up, because you got so much there, I think a little more focus on where to start, a little more focus on where you're going. So that those big objectives are maybe spelled out more clearly, like a community where older people are valued and their well-being is recognized as just important as everybody else's well-being, and they're enabled to be productive members of the community for as long as physically possible.
I'm glad
And
you said that, Steve, because when we did the photo voice, that was the big piece that came out of photo voice, that it was done by senior women. Said we don't necessarily want to be helped, we want to be valued for the riches of our experiences. And I thought that was just profound.
Yeah.
And
it's not about it's just about enabling. Like again, doesn't have to be hugely expensive. It's just creating conditions where it's natural and easy to value them, and to make things like it's hard to read fast enough, but little things like just having a chair in your shop so that an older person can sit down, being flexible around letting customers have access to toilets. I mean, these aren't huge, difficult things to manage. It's just about, again, just turning the switch, making people aware of some of the little things that they could do that would make their business more accessible to this large community of people, many of whom have lots of money to spend. This is I think, again, really important to emphasize that it's a pro-business agenda that you got here. You're trying to help them access a big market that already exists in North Bay that's untapped, and just by taking these simple steps, that they have a potential to grow their market, is one thing. The eco side of it does the same, of course, because there's a growing block of consumers that choose to shop at places that are, evidently more sustainable. And so again, giving them that is good. So now that's led me to two more things that I wanted to flag. One is just to caution about, in my world, in the UN, we talk about blue washing, in the environmental movement, greenwashing. So you do need to make sure that there's some accountability, so that a company can't just say, yeah, I'm in, here's my logo, and then not do anything, and certainly not just rest on their laurels, because that's the whole problem we have now, is business as usual. If arugula has already got this going on, then they need to be moving on to the next thing and not be complacent that they've arrived. There's almost certainly something more that they got to move on to next. And that's sort of our mantra in Global Compact, is always about progress. And so it's, of course, there's absolutes out there, like being absolutely net zero, zero waste to landfill, 100% living wage, for sure. But equally, we want to see movement and not just, we're done. We made that commitment. We're doing a few things here. So I think that's a tricky one. But the way we do it is we call it a communication on progress, and there's an expectation that Global Compact participants will report annually on what they've done. Now,
Great
more
idea.
challenging, I mean, there's a whole, then there has to have all sorts of enforcement, and there has to be something behind it. But the credibility of the initiative depends on us being able to say, you can't just sign up and do nothing. There has to be some evidence of doing something. And so, there are other ways of achieving that, but I would say you want to get that in there somewhere. And there was something else. No, I've lost it, I think.
So Steve, you're going to get it back. That happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that we have a lot of data on those businesses that are coming on board, but we just haven't had time to analyze it yet because they did answer those questions. But I agree with you. The list has to be a little shorter and more maybe giving action items that they could implement right away, that are easy. And we see it happening. There is a will. It's the how. It's the how that we need to get to. And there's different ways that we could bring about an accountability on a yearly basis, perhaps, or, in a recognition kind of thing, or an awards or something, something like that. Anyways, yeah.
Well, awards is nice because then it's a carrot rather than a stick.
Yeah.
And so that's good. And now you're right, I remembered. It was about, to your point about more collective action and getting them working together. And I think it's really important on this stuff. It's very tempting for companies to use their eco credentials for competitive advantage. And of course, that's really great, but to a limit. Like it's good to be green, but you can't be too proprietary about it. So exactly this, if Arugula have found a way to get recyclable packaging, well, they're not really helping the planet if they use that to compete with other operators. Now, if they help other operators to adopt it and those other operators choose not to because it's a little bit more expensive, well, then the gloves are off. But if they don't tell anybody else where they could get it and they don't help anybody else improve their sustainability, well, then are they part of the problem or are they part of the solution? So there is an element there where we want to see that goal 17 in action, where people are working together to drive sustainability. And if as a result of that, this collective group then can go out to the market and say, we're way greener than anybody that's not in this group, and we're working together to get even greener still, perfect. As long as they're, that openness about sharing good practice is out there, so that these leaders are bringing the community with them. And I think that's the key role for a platform like this, is to amplify that good practice so that others are inspired by it and then want to join and follow, and then you lift all the boats.
Well, we're coming into a municipal election,
Well,
I believe in a critical mass. You know what I'm saying? And they do respond to that. So I would really like to, but I don't know if there's a will there yet to see a more circular governance rather than a top-down governance in our municipality, and also adopting the 17 sustainable development goals to a community level, you know, right from the municipality for that commitment. That would be, but I don't
Well-
know if they're even aware of it. I have no idea. I haven't got that far yet. I will go.
Well,
and
certainly
ask, though.
based on my conversations with family in North Bay, I don't think it's a particularly well-known agenda there. But I
No.
think, I think there's value and it can be helpful to use the language of SDGs, at least especially if you're working outside the community, because internationally and even nationally within Canada and bigger companies will be using that language.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily made it down to, and it doesn't have to, like, and that's why I think switching to more practical language like living wage and net zero and just eliminating discrimination
Mhm.
is probably more effective messaging for you, but having it in the fine print that this is all aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals gives you that I think the providence and it gives it credibility that's really valuable to have. But a lot of people's eyes will glaze over because I know in North Bay the UN feels very far away and very irrelevant, and
Mhm.
so no need to try to make it relevant. Just cut to the chase. The stuff that we're advocating for in the SDGs is 100% relevant to North Bay. Creating a community that is sustainable would be the most visionary thing that any local politician could do. If they want to differentiate North Bay from Sudbury and Aurelia and any other of the communities in Ontario, having a real vision for creating a sustainable community would be the way to attract new business to the community, because again, the big companies know they need to be net zero in the near future. Locating in a community that has 100% renewable energy um, is a really important starting point. And if they just would get their heads around that, the fact that it's hydropower would just be a tremendous sales feature for the city to attract investment. But I don't get a sense that they recognize that. They just fall into the same, let's attract a big box store, let's make the highway wider, let's open a casino. These really boring and proven not to work strategies.
Mhm.
They gotta break out of it. And so here again, I think it's that vision and having the big goal, the big vision for the future, but some practical steps that are going to get us there to just to demonstrate it's not pie in the sky thinking. This is practical. Here it's being done in Bristol. Here it's being done in Thessaloniki in Greece. It's being done in all sorts of other communities. There's no reason why it couldn't be done in North Bay for the betterment, of absolutely everybody there, except the casino owner and maybe some of the other vested interests.
So do you think that, Steve, that would, I have a strong interest in taking this to other communities in Northern Ontario. And at some point, I mean, we've got to do this with our limited resources right now, within our
Yeah.
resources right now. But I think we have a good start. Especially if we get to 100 businesses, which I think is quite possible.
hmm
Almost at 50 if everyone comes on. So, and then we've got 3 from you. So,
Yeah. Well, and I think that if you, just starting in the right way, that I think again, emphasizing the interconnections, uh, grandmas are spending money on their kids. If you make the store comfortable for them, um, it's just smart business. So I think that's a really key thing to emphasize, that very few people are operating in isolation, and particularly old people that have roots in the city. They are well connected, and treating them right is just smart business. And so get started by supporting this initiative and just ticking off a few of the boxes. And I tend to just flip that the eco side is a little more oriented to young people. But of course, yes, it is because they're going to deal with the consequences. But equally, older people value the environment. They've had time to reflect on the lives they've led, the environmental damage they may have done, and they may be looking again to see that, try and avert disaster again for the generations coming after them. I'm certainly seeing that here in London. When Extinction Rebellion took to the streets, alongside all of the dreadlocked young people, there were lots of older people and retirees that were spending their retirement joining this fight. And it's an intergenerational battle. So I think this is really great that it explicitly brings it all together.
We're even thinking of changing the language a bit from seniors to mature adults, or older adults, just because of the word value comes up often in my senior group. What it means to, and for them to be able to share their stories. There's nuggets of in all of the stories, and great things to share. So.
I don't know. I think this may be some market research into how do these people self-identify, because it's I actually had a moment of reflection yesterday. I mean, not particularly great achievement, but I've this year I've outlived my dad, and it's just does my head in a little bit thinking about that I'm as old. I've never really considered myself being that age, and now I kind of have to face that I am. But there's people like you, Harriet, like my mom, like my stepdad, Ralph, that are really redefining what people do at any given age. I mean, it's not like it used to be. When they say, I don't know what they say, but that 60 is the new 40 or something. But people are just way more active and engaged. They're working longer than they used to do because they want to. They're active longer than they used to be. The preconceptions about old people really need to be chucked out, and that's another, I think, really great outcome that an initiative like this can bring about. That just because you're past 40 doesn't mean life's over now and you're just going to be in some sort of gradual decline until you go into a home somewhere. It's I mean, as you show, older people often have more energy and vision and drive than anyone else in the community. It's not about age. It's just
definitely not. No.
Your energy level and your ambition and what you feel like doing. And so I think it's really key that we redefine that. My mom, again, is just about the hardest working person I know.
Sure.
It's so, it's certainly not an age thing.
She used to belong to Living Fit. Did you know that?
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I know Ralph is
It's a time issue
than he used to be. Yeah, and it's difficult for her to have time off on her own. But yeah, I'm sure she'll be back
someday
at some point. Yeah.
Hey, Steve, should we open up to Jasmine and Leanne, and maybe they have questions or comments?
Sure.
From the collective?
Just for that, I was just wondering, so we've been working with Wendy Carew, who's helping us with our vision and making it just more circular, I guess.
Yeah.
To what our goals are, which really line up with what you're doing. I was wondering what you're thinking, since you just kind of got an overview of the whole business. Do you see this as more of a nonprofit or a profit business, for-profit business?
So I definitely see it's more nonprofit. I think in stuff like this, expectations change. you know, from a, when you become a, if you're going to be for profit, that starts to close off avenues for funding from
Yeah, exactly.
foundations and public sector. So that's a bit potentially problematic, because I would see that being a potentially really important source of revenue for an initiative like this. If you go down a for-profit pathway, even not for profit, but charging a fee, it does change the relationship. And your objective of 100 companies that support this in their heart is one thing. But if you're asking them for $250 or $500, now you've changed in the relationship, and it becomes transactional. And now they start thinking about a value proposition, and then it starts to be, okay, I give you 500. What are you giving me in exchange that's worth it? And they will subconsciously put a value on the warm feeling they get from supporting you, but it might not be the whole 500. And so then you're starting to get into, you know, what's the value of their logo being on your website? What's the value of the programming and the guidance you're providing? And can they get it somewhere else? It really changes the dynamic. So not to say it's not possible, but for us, I have a significant segment of my membership that take that very transactional approach, and we have to be very conscious of a value proposition. And we're not for profit, but we still have to be thinking in those terms because we have a fee. So now, goes both ways. Of course, a fee demonstrates a real commitment. They're more likely to be engaged if they put some money in, then they want to get their money back out of it. But I think moving towards a model that was not for profit, but probably did charge some sort of a participation fee for companies, even if it was just a token, probably where I would see this going in the long run. But I see so much community benefit in it that I would hope there would be an angle that to access either government or foundation funding, just, you know, to the point about potentially reducing costs for you know, caring for elderly people in the community. There would be, you know, money spent with you could result in significant savings elsewhere in the system. If you could demonstrate that, make the case for that clearly, then it's relatively easier for, I'm assuming the province is on the hook for that money more than the city, or is it?
Could be,
sure how?
could be both.
Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah.
I think there's funding from the federal government as well.
Yeah.
New Horizons is the one that the village accessed, and they're doing some wonderful, wonderful projects there for older adults. And it's I think they got, I don't know, 3 or 4 million, like a lot, to do that.
Well, that's
significant
that's
for sure.
Yeah.
The other thing I've been thinking about, I'm really reluctant to charge anything other than a nominal fee, because COVID has been really devastating for a lot of small business. And in order to help, I think that we have the opportunity to really help small businesses here, because just saying they're eco-age friendly, I mean, my membership will support that. They will support those businesses.
Yeah.
And I know that they will even not go to a restaurant that has styrofoam. They use a styrofoam because it's not recyclable at all. You know, so you know, they want to go to some place where they're treated, where the music isn't too loud, or they're addressed not as honey or dear.
Yeah.
except if they're in Newfoundland where they would be called love,
Yeah, yeah.
so yeah.
So that's it. I think it's as I said before, it's a strongly business-friendly agenda that you're advocating. So that should appeal to the local government. It's really generating benefits in so many different ways. So there's the old folks side of it, there's the SDG side of it, the green side of it. There must be funding out there that's willing to support these types of initiatives in a community like North Bay. So yeah, so that's my take, is that I think not-for-profits probably more viable.
We definitely value your opinion on that and your thoughts on that for sure. Yeah. Leanne, Jasmine, is there anything you wanted to add or question?
I have no questions or comments.
I don't have any questions, but thank you so much for letting us sit in. And you brought up a lot of interesting points about sort of quantifying the altruism factor. As people who are passionate about working with the groups that we work with, I know it's sometimes easy to think that everyone sort of has that same altruistic, but to have that sort of quantifiable and not proof, but sort of action items that hold people to the standards that we are endeavoring is a super, super valuable point to keep in mind. And yeah, I appreciate you guys letting us sit in.
You're welcome. Steve, this has been really valuable for us, and thank you so much. It's you've taken over an hour of your time, and I'm sure you have lots to debrief on that summit.
We have a few, yes. Well, we're slowing down on our events now for August. Just about everybody in the UK takes holidays in August, and we get more holidays than you get in Canada. So it's really hard to get much done. But then, yeah, we hit the ground running again in September, and the big climate summit is coming to the UK in November. So we got lots of climate related stuff coming up. Some child labor stuff coming up, and I can't keep it all straight, and lots more SDGs things. So I think the recordings are not available yet, but they're starting to. I don't know if you're following me and or the network, the Global Compact Network UK on Twitter and LinkedIn, but as soon as the stuff comes available, that's where we'll put it up. And a lot of our programming is recorded and is going to be available if you're interested, and some of the older stuff too. So now we haven't done much on SDG 11 or 17. Frankly, not even. We've done a bit on 12 and a bit on 3 over the years. But I think between the local network in the UK and of course there's a Global Compact network in Canada as well, and our head office, there's lots of material out there. And the SDG ambition benchmarks, I would certainly encourage you to have a quick scan at those, just for ideas about what you might set up as those bigger, longer term targets that you want to encourage your participants to take on board.
I saw an interesting video Africa put out on these SDGs. I sent it to my team. It's 3.41 minutes long, and it's just a nice, easy introduction to the SDGs. So yeah, we'll keep looking for things and ways to introduce the SDGs to at a community level. Would be awesome.
Fabulous. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm hoping we can reach out to you again, Steve, if you can,
Yeah.
if you would mind, and let you know how we're progressing.
That would be great. Yeah,
Okay.
I'd like that a lot.
All right.
Thank you
Okay.
for your time.
Well, it's been a
It's very
pleasure.
valuable. us.
Thank you so
My
much.
pleasure. Good luck with the project. And yeah, I look forward to speaking again.
Steve,
There's a-
sorry, would you mind sending me your address?
You want to mute Leanne?
I want to send you one of these.
That would be great. You know, we're great friends of Liz and, you know, huge fans of her work, but friends first. Yeah, that would be really nice. Thank you.
I'm meeting with her at 11.
Well, then say hi from Steve and Sherry. 'Cause,
Okay.
I'm not sure, Sherry does better than me at staying connected on social media, but I haven't heard any mention of Liz for a little while. So yeah, do give her our best.
Liz is working a lot with the film industry now.
Yeah,
And but she's just still you know, really connected with the environment and nature, and she has a family with her spouse.
yeah.
And she's doing, I think she's doing pretty well. Her mom's not well right
Sure
now.
seems like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she's always done okay, but yeah, she seems to really landed on her feet, and the film industry a real blessing for her. So that's
Yeah.
great that they recognize her amazing talents. So, okay, I have to run. It's been a
All
pleasure.
Thank
Okay,
you.
bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you stay on for a bit, that would be great. Okay. There we go.
Well, there we go. Yay!
Please go.
Oh, it's
We're
awesome.
still recording.
I know. I really, there was just so many gems there.